Welcome to the Town of East Gwillimbury's first electronic council meeting. These are unprecedented times, and the province has made provisions to allow municipalities to meet electronically during a declared state of emergency. Technology makes this happen. We strive to deliver the best service available and ask that all watching or participating have a bit of patience with this new meeting style. Thank you. Mr. Clerk, could you please conduct the roll call?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Starting with Ward 1, Councillor Crothers, are you present?
Present.
Councillor Foster, are you present?
Present.
Councillor Roy DiClemente, are you present?
Present.
Councillor Persicini, are you present? Councillor Persicini, are you present?
Yes, I'm present.
Thank you. Councillor Morton, are you present?
Yes, I am.
Councillor Crone, are you present?
Present.
Madam Mayor, you have quorum. Please proceed with the meeting.
Thank you very much. At this time, I would ask if there's any member have a declaration of interest with the agenda before us.
None.
Hearing and seeing none, Madam Mayor, please proceed.
Thank you very much. This is the very first electronic meeting of East Gwillimbury Council, and I'd like to thank our IT staff who have done an exceptional job in getting us all connected today. We are also streaming this meeting on YouTube. Welcome to our viewers. Before we move on to our update, on behalf of Council, I extend our sincere condolences to all who have lost loved ones to the COVID-19 virus. We send our thoughts and our strength as you try to get through this most difficult time. Today is World Health Day, a reminder to send our thanks and appreciation to all our frontline medical professionals who continue to work every day during this health crisis to keep us safe and to treat those who need their help. In addition, I add our thanks and appreciation to all the essential staff who are not in the health profession, but also go to work every day to ensure we have what we need to get through this difficult time. Thank you all, and please be safe. I will now share some updates. We continue to operate under the state of emergency declared on March the 19th. Last week, in response to the evolving COVID-19 pandemic, the decision was made to extend the closure of all town facilities until June the 30th and have suspended town programming until further notice. On behalf of Council, I thank the federal and provincial governments for their leadership and response to the COVID-19 crisis. They are putting substantial programs and services in place for the benefit of all Canadians to ease the stress in this unprecedented situation. I am in regular contact with our local MP, MPP, and regional chair, keeping current and on top of this ever-changing situation. Last week, I had a conversation with our Lieutenant Governor, the Honourable Elizabeth Dowswell, to share how this is affecting our town and what measures we have taken to do our part to stop the spread of this virus. And now to our residents and local business community. Thank you for all of your support, your patience, your cooperation, and taking the concept of self-isolating and physical distancing seriously. It is our duty to protect ourselves and our fellow citizens. And while these practices can be difficult, it is essential that we want to get what we want to get through this crisis. We are all at risk, and we must all join the battle to plank the curve. Our lives and our future depend on what we do today and tomorrow. I will now speak to those who are not taking this current situation seriously. We continue to get phone calls and emails about people who continue to gather in parks, parking lots, neighborhoods, and homes which is very disturbing considering the situation we are all facing. Over the past several weeks, we have learned that this virus does not discriminate meaning. We are all at risk. COVID-19 cases continue to rise, as does the death rate. I urge you to join your fellow citizens in this fight. Stop visiting family, friends, and neighbors, and only leave your home when it is essential to do so. Practice physical distancing. Stay 2 meters from others. I remind you that this is what we do today collectively that determines what happens to us all tomorrow. All our lives depend on your actions. I now will turn this over to our CAO, Tom Webster, for his update. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As we sit here today remotely, this is our first public venue where we've had a virtual council meeting in a state of town emergency. And it's a very important day for us. And I just want to provide a brief perspective of what the town staff have been doing behind the scenes and as frontline service providers as well. In concert with the town declaring a state of emergency for several weeks in advance of that, we've had a COVID-19 control group established. And that team is made up of our senior management team and also led by our fire chief, who's our community emergency management coordinator, Rob McKenzie. We've also seconded the town's health and safety person to that initiative. So it's an initiative that we treat with great seriousness. Daily, Chief McKenzie has a update with his colleagues in York Region from both a fire and emergency services perspective and an emergency management control perspective. Our team meets on a daily basis. We have regional inputs coming in every single day as a result of a summary of activities from their public health department that's distributed to our council members every evening. We work together to try to continue to provide services to our residents and businesses during this time. And as well, we're prioritizing our employees' health and safety as that they're key people, and we want to make sure that they stay from both a physical and mental perspective healthy in this point in time. One of the things we've done and we're pretty proud of is we've transitioned our town hall literally over the last 3 weeks into a virtual town hall. We have over 80 staff fully equipped, working remotely, providing services to residents. And so far, we've been receiving very good reviews of the service level provision. The longer this COVID-19 crisis continues for, will continue to be a challenge for us, though. Having something for 2 or 3 weeks is one thing, but we now know that the province has continued its state of emergency, that the schools are extended out now till May 4th, so virtually for another month. And at this point in time, we made the decision to close all of our facilities and programs for that time period as well, if not longer. One of the things you're going to be getting following mine is updates from each of our general manager and key department areas of what's happening. Some of the updates today that I think will be very relevant will be on our larger capital projects. Our operations center build is currently stalled. We have some significant park projects that were going to be prioritized that are impacted by this. There has been issues regarding social distancing, not only in our community, but in others. And some of that has led to discussions regarding bylaw enforcement and the role of York Regional Police and our bylaw enforcement personnel, and as well our trail system. And these are all matters that will be dealt with when we have our update from departments. The only other one I do want to cover off at the very beginning is with regards to financial relief and deferral programs. And again, we have a memorandum for discussion that our Deputy Treasurer Warren Marshall will walk us through. So, Madam Mayor, that concludes my introduction of this matter, and I pass it back to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Webster. Do any members of council have any questions at this time?
Yes, it's Kathy. I do.
Go ahead, Kathy.
This is for Tom. Tom, I've been reading all of your emails that you have been sending to us, and also I've been getting all of our MPPs' emails as well. And I do have a question. I know that everyone out there is stating that some of them in the health unit and that it is they are cautiously optimistic that York Region is reaching that peak. And yet I did read that there's 4 long-term facilities that are experiencing breakouts, 4 breakouts so far. We have 12 new cases in York Region since Sunday's update. This doesn't sound that the numbers are lowering, but they are still continuing. How do we know what that peak number is? I know residents have been asking me, and I don't know how to tell them or what to tell them.
I think at this point in time, and this is through the chair, Madam Mayor, what we continue to do is rely on the advice of York Region's Medical Officer of Health and, importantly, the Provincial Medical Officer of Health. And our latest updates have been that the stay-at-home, really taking caution with when leaving the house, working remotely, and social distancing, along with the other hygienic measures that are recommended, are still going to be in place for quite some time. And so until we receive further advisement, we are going to keep facilities closed and continue in this mode. The best thing we can do at this point is really pay attention and watch those regional updates. I know the region is trying to ramp up its social and communication outreach to the public as well. So maybe it'll help with assisting in some of those areas where residents of all of York Region's residents have questions.
Okay, thanks very much, Mr. Webster.
Thank you, Mr. Webster. Thank you, Councillor Morton. Are there any other questions at this time from members of council? Seeing none, I would ask for a mover and a seconder, please.
Madam Mayor, have
I'll
it
move
moved
it.
by Councillor Morton, or sorry, Councillor Roy DeClemente has moved it, and Councillor Persichini has seconded it.
Thank you. And this is to receive the COVID-19 verbal update. All those, sorry, I would ask Mr. Clerk if you could conduct the vote, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Roy DeClemente, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Persichini, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Crothers, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Foster, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Morton, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Crone, how do you vote?
Yes.
Madam Mayor, how do you vote?
Yes.
A motion is carried. I'll pass the meeting back to you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. And I will ask at this point, we have a number of verbal updates from general managers, and I would like to move to item D2, the verbal department status update, and general managers, starting with emergency and community safety services with Chief McKenzie. Would you proceed, please, Chief McKenzie?
Thank you, Madam Mayor and members of council. With your indulgence, what I'll do is I'll go through a little bit of an update from the CEMC position and then just move right into the ECSS table. So to reiterate what the CAO said, every day I have a regular conference call in the morning with the CMCs in the region, discussing all the current trends and whatnot. Chief Lang out of Central York, as I mentioned before, he represents us as a group at the regional EOC. So he's able to provide us with the current or latest updates. We also have twice per week conference calls with the regional EOC, and with those meetings we get updates from public health as well as YRP. So we get a bigger picture there. In addition to that, we have 3 times a week, we have a conference call with the province where we're able to sort of get a higher level understanding of what's happening. So just in sort of a recap, there's lots of good conversation and lots of good information exchange. One of the key ingredients is Laura James, the N6 Emergency Management Coordinator. She's a great resource and she's always available, so we have her on our side too. Currently, there's no new or pressing issues coming out of the CEMC side of things. So I'll just move right into the update for the Emergency and Community Safety Services. As far as operations go, Deputy Jago is off the self-isolation and he's activated himself, so he's up to speed. He's 100%. He and I have agreed that we will stay separate, just as a precaution. As far as operations go, though, status quo, or as I say, in the green. The fleet is good, and right now there's no issues or strains on staffing, both on the full-time side or the paid-on-call brigade. We are monitoring and aware of the PPE shortage in the province. It remains a concern, and we talk about it every day and all the trials and tribulations that go along with it. We do have the immediate support of the department surrounding us, and the Ontario Fire Marshal is aware of the situation, and they're able to assist when able with future supplies. Just for information's sake, with our supplies, if we trend on the same amount of calls that we've been going on, medical calls for the last month, we have just over a 2-month supply of masks, approximately a 5-month supply of gloves, and 4-month supply of gowns. So right now we're not in a pressure point here. As far as the incident trending goes, when we compare the trends of incidents, total incidents for the last month, from March 10th to April 5th, 2020, we're trending at 70 calls. When we take a snapshot of last year at the same time, March 10th to April 5th, we were at 68 calls. So we're not far off of that. What's interesting is, of those 70 calls, 40 of them have been medical calls. But what's encouraging is, of those 40 medical calls, there were only 3 where our fire crews had patient contact, where they made physical contact with the patient. So this comes in part with the measures that we've put in place to reduce exposures on staff. And I mentioned some last week, but I'll mention them again. We amended the response protocols with York Region EMS. We amended our own amended patient screening tools that are implemented with the dispatch, and we've had our staff self-isolating while on duty. They perform a self-screening procedure every morning prior to their shift starting. So those are some of the things that we've got in place. Moving on, we've provided constant and consistent messaging to staff, to all ECSS staff in training notifications, internal memos, and emails. But understanding that there is a potential for information overload or lost in translation situations, the deputy and I have decided we're going to do a town hall meeting with ECSS staff this Thursday night, just to bring them up to speed, to get some questions answered, and just to get a temperature check with them. So with that, I have nothing further, but I would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions at this time?
Madam Mayor, Councillor Crothers has a question.
Go ahead, please.
Thank you, and thank you for that update. I'm glad to know that we're doing well as far as PPE goes. With the items that we have more than a 2-month supply, I think with gowns, you said we have a 5-month supply. Are those items we should be offering to the hospital? Because from my understanding, the shortage is now, and we will be getting more going forward. And I think that we're safe as long as we have a 2-month supply. But I would hate for the nurses at the hospital to be without gowns, and we're sitting on a 5-month supply we may never need. So have we looked at giving some of that to the hospital?
Through your honor to Councillor, no, we haven't. But what we have done is we're part of a bigger picture where we have to provide the province with every day. We have to provide them with our current status of our PPE, right down to the bottles of Javix that we have. So they're the keeper of the key, and they're looking after the hospital. So while we could do that, we would just deplete our staff. But what the province is doing is they're looking after the most critical situations. So they're making sure that the hospital has what they need based on the surveys that they've done for everybody. So long story short is no, we aren't doing it, but the province is looking after the hospitals.
Thank you very much. So it sounds like the answer to my question is positive, that no one's going short while we're sitting on stock we might not need. So thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Are there any other questions at this time?
Madam Mayor, I'm seeing no further questions.
Thank you very much. Then I will ask General Manager Velchik to provide an update regarding corporate services. Mr. Velchik, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll start off by just talking about our information services area. And as you mentioned from off the top, and the CAO mentioned as well, we've really transformed the organization from a physical town office to a virtual town office. So our IT folks, technology folks have been very busy over the last few weeks, and continue to be busy setting up remote staff working arrangements. Our meetings are now almost all held completely virtually, so we can respect the physical distancing and make sure we're keeping ourselves productive but safe and healthy at the same time. We've managed to conduct a very large-scale town hall meeting last week with approximately 130 of our staff in a virtual meeting venue. So that was a really important way to keep all of our staff engaged and updated. We're also looking at this point at how we can continue to expand that virtual meeting venue to some of our other committees, our advisory committees, and so on. So there's a little more work to be done, but we're making great headway in that regard. One of the areas that's been very important over the past few weeks has been our customer service and communications area. Our website provides a great source of information. The chief mentioned a moment ago, there's a real potential for information overload right now. I would encourage anyone that has got questions about municipal programs and services, or even just about sort of COVID response and general information in general, go to our website at www.eastgwillimbury.ca. When you go to our website, you'll find that we have 3 large tiles on the front page of the website. One of them that is entitled Response to COVID-19, Town Updates, Frequently Asked Questions, and more. Lots of very useful information there, including links to other provincial and federal announcements, support programs, and so on. And the other area, Madam Mayor, that as this health emergency has evolved to very quickly also become a very significant economic situation, we also have a tile on our website that's very easy to access called Helping Businesses. And we've got lots of information on there about programs and supports available to businesses, and that's an area that will continue to evolve and become more and more important in the coming weeks and months as we go through recovery. The other piece on customer service is just that our switchboard continues to operate. Our staff are available at 905-478-4282 and can redirect calls or deal with customer, resident, business, and stakeholder inquiries. And I'd also encourage members of the public or stakeholders to contact us by email at customerservice@eastgwillimbury.ca if there's anything we can do to help. In the area of finance, we continue to operate largely virtually, almost exclusively in a virtual sense. Interestingly, some of our very large annual initiatives, such as our year-end audit, we're in the midst of right now and continuing to conduct that, but it's being done virtually with our auditors. One of the matters that the CAO mentioned earlier was about questions that we've had about those that need extra support and assistance from the perspective of payment of water and tax bills. And our Deputy Treasurer, Warren Marshall, will have a memo that he'll speak to on that a little later in the agenda. And lastly, or on finance, before I leave that, I did want to mention, if anyone does have concerns regarded to payments or regarded to any other finance matters, to please contact our finance department either through our main number at 905-478-4282 or email at taxwater@eastglowenberry.ca. And lastly, Madam Mayor, in the corporate services area is economic development. And I mentioned to you that our website is a great source of information, and we have a special tile on there entitled Helping Businesses. So I'd encourage businesses to go there to find information. I also want to highlight that our economic development manager, Margot Bejen, has been working with the Northern 6 municipalities on a business assessment tool. You can find more information on that on our website. And that tool has really been launched very early to give businesses an opportunity to communicate, indicate their concerns, any questions they might have, any needs they might have. And certainly our experience in looking at other situations like this that have happened previously in other parts of the country and other parts of the world is that the sooner you can get that tool in place for effective dialogue, the sooner we can be aware of what the issues are and hopefully address those and put supports in place to try and help those businesses out. So that's really the overview from corporate services. Madam Mayor, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Velchik. I'm just wondering from council, are there any questions?
Madam Mayor, Councilor Roy DeClemente has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Through you, Madam Mayor, to Mr. Velchik. I know we've got a ton of information on our website that businesses can go to and access. From an outreach perspective, I know I've had a lot of not just sort of support questions, but basic questions like, how long do I have to stay closed? Questions from residents, from businesses. Is there an outreach process as well as sort of that passive, we're providing information but not pushing it?
Madam Mayor, through you, it's a great question. Thank you for asking that. Our economic development manager is working with the assistant, and we're also looking to try and pull in some extra help to do exactly that. We want to do an outreach to all businesses within East Gwillimbury so that we can proactively touch base with them, see how they're doing, see what issues or concerns they're having, as well as direct them or assist them as best we can. So we will be not only providing information that folks can come to our website or will receive through Facebook and Twitter town accounts, but we're also going to be doing an outreach, and that's going to be starting imminently in the next day or two.
Thank you.
Council members, are there any other questions at this time?
Madam Mayor, I'm not showing any further questions.
Thank you very much. Seeing no other questions, I will ask General Manager Karmazin to provide an update regarding community parks, recreation, and culture. Please proceed.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor, with the facilities and the rec teams, we're in the process of canceling all programs and permits for the spring. So this is hundreds of cancellations, refunds, or credits to account transactions. We've contacted personally and are working with Human Resources with the 59 staff that are under the declared emergency leave. We're looking into the lead time related to the potential cancellations of Canada Day, Farmers Market, and Tapestry of Taste 2020, and we'll report back to Council further on those events. Good news story, our Health and Active Living at Home Challenge was launched on Friday. and we had just under 4,000 community views and increasing on social media with some very positive feedback from our residents. With parks and trails, parks and bylaw staff are inspecting our parks and trails for compliance, and as well as our trailheads and trailhead parking lots with the closure order. Overall, there is compliance, but there are still some problematic areas. We've requested YRP assistance, and we are receiving that assistance as needed. The trailhead parking continues to be and continues to provide some negative comments on social media, and we are seeing a trend with these comments from day to day. There are some reports of non-compliance at the trailhead parking lots as well. At this point, it's the COVID group's recommendation that these lots be closed, and that's inconsistent with the LSRCA closure of the Nokita Trail lands. For capital, the latest provincial order has stopped construction at the operations center. Legals provided the position that the site can be deemed essential and work may continue on the site. We're working with the general contractor to possibly continue work on site, and we'll report further on those discussions with the general contractor as they progress. All parks projects, including the Mount Albert and Queensville Community Parks projects, have now stopped. All parks development projects and trails development projects have now stopped. All facilities capital projects have now stopped. We're recommending to the COVID group that the chiller project proceed at the sports complex as operation of this ice plant may be required for surge capacity should regional health request this. That's it from CPRC. I'd be happy to answer any questions that council may have.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, you have a comment from CAO Webster, and then a question from Councillor Crothers.
Thank you. Mr. Webster, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to provide a little more context to the issue of trails and closures, and it's been a little difficult not only for the public to understand, but for our organization itself. There was a directive, I believe it was approximately 10 days ago, that all the conservation lands and trails were going to be closed. Subsequent to that, there was some discussion held with some senior staff, and it indicated that if we would look after and monitor, the trail could stay open. The decision was made at that time to leave our parking area, and the one that we have full control over is the parking area at Mount Albert Road and Old Young Street. And it has been getting high use. And as Mr. Karmazin indicated, there are some folks, and unfortunately it might be a slim minority, that are not respecting and abiding by the social protocol, and that's really unfortunate. The one thing I do want to share, and this is for the public record, is that the Conservation Authority CAO, Michael Walters, contacted me last evening by email and respectfully requested that we close the parking lot. And he indicated it was the only one still open. And I indicated to him that I understood the issues and concerns, and that we would be discussing it at council today. And at this point in time, it's unfortunate because I think it could default folks to having to possibly park in less safe areas, for the lack of a better word, maybe on boulevards of regional roads and other elements like that do want to partake in the trail system. But that's where the COVID group has made a recommendation that we do in fact close the trail, but certainly open for discussion. And both Mr. Karmazin and other general managers can speak to answer the questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Webster. Are there other questions at this time for Mr. Karmazin?
Madam Mayor, you have a question from Councillor Crothers, followed by Councillor Roy DeClemente, and followed by Councillor Morton.
Thank you. Councillor Crothers, please.
Thank you. I think we've seen what happens when we close that parking lot. In the wintertime, that parking lot's closed and it's a zoo on the road. People trying to park along there, kids trying to get out of the car when there's traffic going by. It's not a safe alternative for our community. We also have our trails because we know that our community needs that type of recreation. We need to get people outside. So yes, there's a few people, and they're the very, very slim minority who are abusing it. But I think we're wrong to have a knee-jerk reaction and close the parking lot. I think that if we can have our bylaw officers out in the parking lot looking for people who are not social distancing, if we can put up signage, I'm not sure what signage is there now. I'll have to drive by later today and take a look at what's already there. But if maybe we need more signage, we need a physical presence of someone there who can warn people. And people just need to exercise some caution when getting out of the car so that they're not getting out at the same time as the car next to them. I've said in my email with regard to this that maybe we need some creative solutions. Maybe we need to be blocking off like every other parking spot sort of thing so that we only have half as many people going in. And when the spots are full, then the spots are full and no more people can enter. But I think that it's easy just to close the parking lot, but it's not best for our community. It's not safe. And pushing them onto the road doesn't solve the problem of social distancing. It just puts the issue into an unsafe spot. So I would like to see that parking lot kept open. I would like to see some creative ideas from the COVID group about how we go about that safely. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Second question, please.
Mayor Hackson, it's Councillor Roy DeClemente. My take on this one is of a challenge, I guess. Ultimately, the Nikita Trail has been closed. The town does not own that land. We have an agreement to maintain it. But at this point, we're not the property owner. The trail has been closed. And whether or not we agree with that decision, it's not ours to make. We're not the property owner. The challenge becomes if the trail is closed, the only reason why somebody would be parking in that parking lot is because they're accessing the trail. So if the trail is closed, why are they using the parking lot? So ultimately, while I fundamentally support the idea of keeping trails and open spaces available for people to access, provided that they're maintaining physical distances from each other, and our standards are 3 meters wide, so it's possible to do. Unfortunately, in this circumstance, there isn't a good reason to keep that parking lot open, as far as I can tell, simply because the only reason why someone would park there would be to access that trail, which is closed. Thank you.
Councillor Morton.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to Aaron. One of the problems, Aaron, is the fact that we have signs, the gates are open, we have signs up saying that the trails are open, and yet further on down the trail, the Conservation Authority has signs there that say it is closed. So we do have to get the right signs up there. And I have to agree with Councillor Roy DeClemente, because I do believe that people should be outside, but I also see people walking along my streets and that are not from the same house, that are standing very close to each other, and it bothers me. So I support the fact that we do at this point have to close the trails.
Are there other questions?
Madam Mayor, you have a question from Councillor Foster.
Go ahead, Councillor Foster.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think that one of the most important things that we have to speak about here is consistent messaging. I've mentioned it before on a couple of our information calls. Again, although it's important that trail's open and we give or that the trail is accessible and we give the people the opportunity to use it, if we're the only one with that trail parking lot open, that's not consistent. And I think the consistent messaging should take priority here. Thank you.
Are there other questions?
Madam Mayor, you have a comment from General Manager Karmazin.
Go ahead, please.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor, I should add that we have added signage, public health signage, to the trailhead parking lot, but we are still getting the public concerns and the feedback through customer service and social media.
I continue to hear as well grave concerns from people who are concerned about the distancing of people, and once you create an area for them to meet, then they will meet there. And it's human nature. People love our trails. It's an area that people can get outside, and at this time when people are staying close to home, it's nice to be able to do that. However, I agree with Councillor Foster that the messaging is mixed, not only in our municipality, but in our surrounding municipalities. And in most cases, our trails do lead to some other municipality south of us, and they have a very different view of what they have done with their trails. And so we have some inconsistency, not only with the Lake Simcoe Region Conservation Authority lands, but also within York Region and the difference in usage of park space. Mr. Karmazin, do you have any comment on that?
Through you, Madam Mayor, staff concur, and no further comment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any other questions?
Madam Mayor, you have a question from Councillor Crone.
Councillor Crone, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Many of my thoughts have been expressed previously by councillors. I certainly think it's important that East Gwillimbury keep our own trails open. I support that. I think it's partially a mental health concern. I think people need to get out if they don't have the space at their home. They need to get out and stretch their legs, keeping a safe distance, of course. But the trails that aren't ours, I think there's an obligation for us to assist them in their wishes. So I would support closing the parking lot, as much as it kills me to say this. I think we need to close the parking lot and respect their wishes, along with York Regions as well. It's, as Councillor Foster says, we need to be consistent in our messaging. That's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any other questions?
Madam Mayor, I'm seeing no other questions.
Thank you very much. With that, I will ask General Manager Molinari to provide an update regarding community infrastructure and environmental services.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And through you, CIS operations and engineering is fully functional, albeit at reduced levels. We're getting quite proficient with our virtual meeting software and are using it with our staff teams daily to stay current and to move our projects forward. On the engineering side, we continue to review plans and process development applications electronically. Development inspection staff continue to address customer service inquiries and perform daily visual inspections of all development sites from their truck to ensure sites are in order. Capital projects are being prioritized, and staff are concentrating on the design assignments and works that are best suited for current conditions. On the operations side, water and wastewater staff, as well as our road staff, continue to work on rotating shifts to reduce exposure risks and for long-term business continuity. Each field staff is assigned with a truck, and work is being completed independently or while maintaining social distancing. We continue to maintain our water and wastewater systems to ensure safe drinking water for residents in accordance with Ministry of Environment and Conservation and Parks requirements. Roads continue to be maintained in accordance with provincial minimum maintenance standards. We're maintaining fuel reserves for all town departments and are taking this opportunity with our fleet coordinator, who's also a mechanic, to complete maintenance work on our fleet and equipment to maximize their service life and keep everything moving. The mosquito control program has been deemed an essential service and is proceeding. The permit from the MACP is expected imminently, and the program is to start once conditions are favorable. This is likely the end of this week or potentially beginning of next week. Residents are reminded that the larvicide is safe and that application is by air via helicopter. YRP has been notified of the works, as well as our customer service team in case there are any inquiries. We also note that the WHO has advised that COVID-19 is not transmitted by mosquitoes. On the waste front, waste continues to be collected as scheduled, and the bag limit was increased to 5 bags per household in anticipation of the additional waste at the curb from people being at home. This limit appears to be working, and as always, residents can continue to set out their recycling, green bins, and yard waste as usual. Generally, what we're seeing on the street is about 3 bags per household and about a 25% increase in green bin and recycling. And that's the update from CIS, and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Molinari. Are there any questions for Mr. Molinari?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I'm seeing no questions.
Thank you very much. We will move on to our General Manager Horner to provide an update regarding legal and counsel support services.
Madam Mayor, if I may interrupt.
Yes.
CEO Webster has a comment on capital program.
Go ahead, Mr. Webster, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think it's appropriate under General Manager Molinari's area and General Manager Karmazin's to do have a little update on our capital program for 2020. The majority of our large-scale projects are in these 2 areas. Of note, the 3 probably highest profile capital projects that we have currently underway are the construction of the town's operations center, which is nearing 50% completion. It was widely anticipated, needed for health and safety of our employees. It's a real priority for us, and we think it does meet the category to be an essential capital project to continue. But we're working with the contractor right now to navigate those waters, as the site has been shut down, as Mr. Karmazin said, since Monday. We would like to get it reactivated as a priority. The 2 significant park redevelopments being the Queensville Park next to our fire hall, and the main park in Mount Albert, where the sports day is held on an annual basis, are 2 other very significant $1 million projects, which at this point are being shut down. And it's our position that they likely will have to wait until this passes, this COVID matter, before those ones reinitiate. For the balance of our capital program, what I can assure you is we've established a subgroup composed of the general managers and Dean Horner, our solicitor. We have finance folks as well, and we're going to prepare for April 21st council session an update of our capital program as to the status and which projects may continue or which ones may be deferred and have to be reviewed as part of the COVID when we get to the expiration of the COVID crisis and can restart. So just wanted to indicate that we are on top of the capital projects, but that'll be a priority for the 21st. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Webster. We look forward to an update on the 21st. I will now ask General Manager Horner to provide an update regarding legal and counsel support.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good afternoon, Council. Just to briefly report on the departments, and then I'll be very happy to take any questions that you may have. In the clerk's office, the team is working remotely, and is for the most part providing technical and administrative support to the COVID-19 group. The team is also looking at ways that we can take these new electronic tools and expand them. So for instance, how can we expand the tool to facilitate enhanced public engagement? How can we use the tool to have a normal public meeting and kick off some of the statutory committees again, which have been on hold since the COVID-19 emergency. In legal services, it's really business as usual. We're working remotely and doing our best to support the departments and providing advice and contract support as we navigate the COVID-19 waters. Also am quite busy right now providing support to bylaw enforcement. And so on the point of bylaw enforcement, I should inform council that we're receiving some really very clear direction from the province and York Regional Police. So in terms of what we're being asked to do, and this really relates to the different orders that have issued from the province pursuant to the emergency legislation. What we're really being asked to do is to have a graduated response to enforcement. We're being asked to educate first, caution, and then enforce. So what's actually happening out in the field is that the bylaw enforcement officers are very busy educating the community about the importance of physical distancing and reminding people that the parks are closed and that groups greater than 5 are prohibited. And all of this activity is actually being coordinated with all of the York Region municipalities. The bylaw enforcement teams meet 3 times every week together with York Region and the police to just ensure that everyone is sharing best practices and is able to respond in a coordinated manner to issues that arise. One question that has kind of popped up is what kind of real tools might our officers have if there was a need to ticket or lay a charge. And I can confirm to council that the province has empowered our bylaw enforcement officers to ticket under any emergency order that's issued. Although I should remind everyone that our YRP has asked that we not do this, that we focus on education and leave enforcement to YRP. In terms of the regular matters, such as parking and typical complaints, really at this point in time, the team is focused on the COVID-19 education piece, and enforcement of other bylaw matters are really being treated with compassion and common sense. So that's the approach that's being brought to bear. So that was really all that I had intended to report to Council, Madam Mayor, but am certainly very happy to take questions.
Thank you, Mr. Horner. Are there questions, Mr. Horner?
Madam Mayor, I'm seeing no questions.
Thank you very much. With no
Sorry,
questions,
Madam Mayor, Councillor Crone does have a question.
go ahead, Councillor Crone.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to Mr. Horner. I appreciate your update. I know certainly we've had discussions offline about what our bylaws officers can do and the police. And I appreciate the fact that, as in your words, we're using some common sense in the application of parking and whatnot. Can you give me just to explain a little more, give a little more detail on some of the fines that could be levied to people if they're not taking the education component of this seriously? Because I think for the most part people are responding well to the social distancing, the physical distancing, but there's some that aren't getting it, and I'm hearing more often than not that it's the young people that aren't getting the message, and perhaps that's an opportunity for us to have better messaging with the parents to get this through. But I was just curious, what are some of the fines that can be levied if they're not getting the message.
I can give you 3 examples that I've got handy here. So for failure to comply with an order made during the emergency, the set fine is $750. For obstructing any person exercising a power in accordance with an order, so obstructing an officer, $1,000. And then there's another one here, obstructing any person performing a duty in accordance with an order, $1,000. So that's 3 examples. I've seen reference to significantly higher fines, but the significantly higher fines typically relate to corporations.
That's it from you.
Are there any other questions?
Madam Mayor, I'm not seeing any further questions.
Thank you. I will move along then and ask General Manager Ramuno to provide an update regarding development services.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you, our planning and building staff are all, of course, working remotely. They've got the technology required to continue to review applications. I'm in communication with staff. They're also communicating amongst themselves and with applicants. Specifically, our building staff, they are currently reviewing building permit applications that were received. They are conducting inspections on site on a daily basis, and they are also set up to receive new building permit applications electronically as of April 6th, just this past Monday. So building permit applications can be submitted electronically, and that's working well. With respect to our planning staff, they're also continuing to review and process planning applications that were received previously. They're in, again, communication with applicants via email or phone or by phone. We're preparing development agreements. In addition, we're also set up to accept new planning applications. We've got a process set up to accept those. We are updating our website on a regular basis to update our residents in the building industry with respect to ongoing changes to procedures and processes during this period. And we also, for those folks, residents who want to get an answer, they could either email our planning email, and those questions will be addressed the same day or by the next day. For residents who want to speak to someone, I just suggest they call our planning line, 905-478-4283, extension 1285, and we're checking our messages on a daily basis, and someone will return those calls within a day as well. That concludes my update, Madam Mayor. If there are any questions.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions for Mr. Ramuno?
Madam Mayor, you have Councillor Roy DeClemente with a question.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Through you, Madam Mayor, to Mr. Ramuno. Just wondering, as far as volume is concerned, are we seeing a similar amount of applications and permits coming in, or have things dropped off considerably? I know Chief McKenzie said that calls were about the same amount. Obviously, calls to 911 are very different than permit applications, but I'm just wondering about the volume of work that your staff are processing.
With respect to building, we last week we did receive new applications, and we were also averaging approximately 30 inspections per day last week. So we really haven't seen a drop off. On the planning application side of things, we are expecting new applications. We've been working with applicants for a number of months, and we're expecting a handful of applications to be submitted over the next week or so. And again, these are projects that staff have been working on with applicants for some time. So as to date, no, we haven't really seen a drop off on either planning or building applications.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions?
Madam Mayor, I'm seeing no further questions.
Thank you very much. I will ask Angela Ramsey, Acting Chief Executive Officer, to provide an update regarding East Gwillimbury Public Libraries, please.
Hello, thank you, Madam Mayor. Good afternoon to members of council. During these unusual times, the library continues to offer an array of services for people of all ages here in the community through our online branch. It is our priority to keep the public informed and entertained during this difficult time, and all of our current services are free to our users. We have been getting library cards into the hands of residents who may not have had one, and we're offering a virtual desk to answer any questions. Our staff quickly transitioned our programs to offer them online, so our community can attend a story time, a tech help session, or participate in special presentations, including the E.G. Gardner's Spring Tips and a 360 tour of the Sharon Temple, plus many more to come. We're adding new e-books to online platforms for more selections, and we're seeing record high usage on Overdrive and Mango Languages. Lynda.com, which is an online learning platform, saw an increase of 162% in March compared to the previous month. As we move forward in this new normal, we continue to plan programs that connect our community together from our homes. We're eager to hear from residents on their information and entertainment needs, and we're ready to respond. And that concludes the library's update. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions for Ms. Ramsey?
Madam Mayor, I'm seeing no questions.
Thank you very much. That concludes our update from all our departments, and at this time, I would ask for a mover and a seconder to receive the departmental verbal updates, please.
Madam Mayor, you have a motion by Councillor Foster and a seconded by Councillor Roy DiClemente.
Thank you, and Mr. Clerk, would you please conduct the vote?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Foster, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Roy DiClemente, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Crothers, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Persichini, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Morton, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Crone, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mayor Hackson, how do you vote?
Yes.
That motion is carried. Madam Mayor, the meeting's back to you.
Thank you very much. We are now going to deal with item D3, which is Human Resources Verbal Update regarding staffing and health and safety. And I would ask Michelle Collette, Director of Human Resources, to provide a verbal update regarding staffing and health and safety.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Madam Mayor and members of council. I would like to give you an update in those particular areas, starting with staffing impacts. We continue to ensure that the health, safety, and well-being of our employees and the community is protected and paramount in our decision-making. Given the recent announcements regarding expanding closures, the senior management team has been faced with the difficult task of examining the town's ongoing operations. As previously mentioned, in order to support our employees, we have been successful in implementing work-from-home arrangements for approximately 80 of our staff. Our essential frontline employees continue to support the community and work on rotational shifts where applicable to ensure that they're fresh and able to conduct their duties. We continue to monitor the ever-changing situation, ensuring our employees are conducting meaningful work when at home or on the front line. This means that some employees, as we move forward in this crisis and situation, may be deployed or working on special projects in addition to daily activities. With the continued closures, the town has also had to make the difficult decision to temporarily suspend the shifts of our part-time casual employees whose work is impacted by the facility and school closures, as noted by the government. and the cancellations of town programs. We have placed these employees on a declared emergency leave, and all affected employees have been contacted by their supervisor to discuss this temporary measure and they've been provided support. As we know, these programs are new and the government has put them in place to help employees in this time of need. These decisions, as you can imagine, are not made easily, but speaks to the gravity of the situation and what we're all dealing with together. Our employees provide great work to our community, and our goal will be to, as we move forward, and re-onboard these employees as soon as it is safe to do so and return to normal operations. On the health and safety front, our employees, that is obviously our primary objective. As mentioned, the COVID-19 control group continues to send out emails to update staff and keep them informed of this ever-changing situation. We have implemented a mandatory pre-shift self-screening approach for staff, and whenever staff are reporting to the workplace, they fill in this questionnaire and sign off within accordance to health regulations. As well, we have a routine disinfection of all high-touch surface areas in all our facilities and buildings. We are monitoring the essential products and the PPE to ensure we have enough to remain operational, and as mentioned by the chief earlier. With respect to our summer student impacts, our seasonal and summer student hiring is temporarily on hold until approximately June 1st, and we will continue to evaluate and monitor this situation. Employee support, we also continue to provide our employees with all the support they need through our EAP programs. Moving forward, the COVID-19 control group will continue to look at essential services and operations for staff in 2-week segments to allow for appropriate planning and operations. We will continue to communicate with you and ensure all staff are kept up to date. That is the end of my update, and appreciate any questions.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions of Ms. Collette?
Madam Mayor, I'm seeing no questions.
Thank you very much. Seeing no questions, I'll ask for a mover and a seconder to receive the Human Resources verbal update, please.
I'll move it.
I'll second. Kathy.
Madam Mayor, your mover is Councillor Persichini, and your seconder is Councillor Morton.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, would you please conduct the vote?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Persichini, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Morton, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Crothers, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Foster, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Roy DeClemente, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Crone, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mayor Hackson, how do you vote?
Yes.
That motion is carried, Madam Mayor. The meeting's back to you.
Thank you very much. I will move to item E, deputations on our agenda. I do not have a list of any deputations at this time. Mr. Clerk, is that correct?
That is correct, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. And so with that, we will move to item F1, and that is legal and council support services report LCSS 2020-04 procedural bylaw amendment, electronic participation. Could I have a mover and a seconder with respect to this recommendation as presented in our report, please?
I so move.
I'll
Kathy.
second. Laura Lee.
Madam Mayor, your mover is Councillor Morton, and your seconder is Councillor Crothers.
Thank you very much, and I would ask General Manager Horner, please, to provide a brief overview.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just briefly, with COVID-19, it made it really difficult for councils in Ontario to meet the way they always did, in person, in public, in the chambers. You know, the need for physical distancing meant that the real solution to the problem was an electronic meeting. But the fact of the matter was, prior to the COVID-19 emergency, a completely electronic meeting wasn't permitted by the terms of the Municipal Act. So the province kind of leapt on to the issue really quickly and amended the Municipal Act to provide for the possibility that municipal councils could amend their procedural bylaws to provide for full electronic meetings at any time when there was when an emergency had been declared. So the purpose of this report was simply to get the bylaw before council and recommend that you amend your procedural bylaw to provide for electronic meetings. Happy to take any questions, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Horner. Are there questions for Mr. Horner, please?
Madam Mayor, I'm seeing no questions.
Thank you very much. Seeing no questions, Mr. Clerk, could you please conduct the vote?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Morton, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Crothers, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Foster, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Roy DiClemente, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Persicini, how do you vote?
Yes.
And Councillor Crone, how do you vote? Councillor Crone, how do you vote?
Yes.
Madam Mayor, how do you vote?
Yes.
That motion's carried. I pass the meeting back to you.
Thank you very much. We are under reports, continuing with reports, item F, and I would ask that Corporate Services Finance Grants Memo, Property Tax, and Water Utility Bill Deferral Program have a status update, please. Could I have a mover and a seconder?
I'll move it. Joe Persicini.
Madam Mayor, Councillor Persicini is moving it. Councillor Roy DiClemente is seconding it.
Thank you very much. And I would ask that, Mr. Clerk, we will now move to General Manager Velchik for a brief overview.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll just make a couple of very brief comments, and then with your permission would ask our Deputy Treasurer, Warren Marshall, to speak to the memo. Our Deputy Treasurer has been in close and regular communication with the treasurers throughout the region, and this has been a discussion point that's been prevalent. We've had a fair amount of inquiry about this from our residents and our businesses. And so I'll turn it over, with your permission, Madam Mayor, to our Deputy Treasurer, Warren Marshall, just to provide you with some expanded overview of the memo and to help with the discussion.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Basically, this memo summarizes what's been happening with respect to providing relief for the payment of property taxes and water bills. One of the questions that are frequently asked in the town is, what are we doing with respect to providing relief on these payments? So the town recognized the significant financial impact that the pandemic is having on people and businesses, and we have taken action to provide some relief. Early on, we announced that we would be providing a waiver of penalties and interest on bills that were due in March and April. And we also committed to coming back with further details on further relief. So one of the complications on the town providing relief, and in particular with tax, is that the town also collects property taxes on behalf of the region and the province in terms of education tax. So the region and the province also demand that we remit these collections to them on a installment basis. And if we miss those deadlines, there's some fairly significant penalties that the town has to pay. So when we start considering deferral options and relief options, it's important that the province and the region participate. So about a week and a half ago, the province announced that they would be deferring their June and September payments that we are required to give to them. They'd be deferring them by 90 days. So as well, most of the municipalities have also offered relief in terms of waiving interest and penalties on their overdue accounts. And the time frame ranges anywhere from 30 to over 90 days. Notably, the cities of Markham and Richmond Hill just came out and indicated that they are waiving their penalties and interest for the entire year, so until 2021. So the town was prepared to offer a 90-day waiving of penalty and interest, but what we wanted to do was want to hear what the region was doing, because in my discussions with the area treasurers, it was uncertain whether they were going to match the 90 days that the province was going to offer. So there was a council session that was held on Thursday, and Wednesday night, staff walked the report onto the council agenda to endorse a 30 or a 90-day deferral of interest and penalties. But that recommendation got referred back to staff because Richmond Hill and Markham both asked that they extend that timeline to the end of the year like they've done. So regional staff have committed to come back to their next committee meeting on April 16th to propose a position on the timeline for waiving penalties and interest. And we're recommending that once that comes out, that we come back to council on the 21st with a recommendation on a further deferral of penalty and interest. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions of Mr. Marshall or Mr. Velchit?
Madam Mayor, you have a question from Councillor Crothers.
Go ahead, Councillor Crothers.
Thank you. I'm sorry, there was a bit of a connectivity issue right at the end of your report, Warren, so I kind of missed what you were saying. But my question is, do we need a motion from council saying that we're going to defer for 90 days? Because where it stands right now, we're saying May 1st, and we don't meet again till the 21st, I believe. So people who are having a hard time making ends meet aren't going to know whether or not they owe for the end of the month or not. So I'm just wondering if we should be passing a resolution right now for the 90 days rather than waiting to see if the region goes to the end of the year. If you could clarify, I'd appreciate that. Thanks.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I believe we would need some resolution from council to enact the 90-day. I think it's a good idea to do that if we're worried about those that are coming close to their payment deadline. So we could do that.
Madam Mayor, I'd be happy to move that.
Thank you very much. I'll go through the questions and then see if we in fact have a seconder for your motion. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, your next question is from Councillor Crone.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, through you to Mr. Marshall and the rest of council. I would like to support what Councillor Carruthers has just said. I think 90 days is the least that we can do at the moment to help defer tax and water bills. We certainly have the reserves and the financial wherewithal to take that, and it makes sense from this forward. And I look forward to you getting back to us the next meeting to inform us about what the region has come up with. I would like to see a more robust approach to this. I'd like to see a unified approach to it as well, if possible. But I support what Councillor Carruthers just said. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any other questions?
I have a question.
Through you, Madam Mayor, Councillor Roy DiClemente has a question, followed by Councillor Persicini.
Thank you. Councillor Roy DiClemente, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I don't have a fundamental objection to deferring for 90 days. As Councillor Foster says often, is that what I want to make sure is that we're messaging is consistent. And I understand that, you know, it might make sense for us to wait until the region has made a decision so that we can be consistent across all three levels of government between the school board, the municipality, and the region. So I'm fine to support the 90 days, but I would prefer to see some kind of a provision in there that says, for consistency of messaging, that staff will come back to us on the 21st so that we can fine tune that message. Again, I continue to stress that I think it's important for our staff to use their discretion and their better judgment and some compassion in dealing with our residents. Whether or not there's a deferral or an outright inability to pay, I think again it's on a case-by-case basis, and people need to know that as well. That if they are having a challenge, that we approach it with some compassion and discretion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Persicini.
I fully agree with Roy DiClemente, Councillor DiClemente, that we should wait that, she stole my thunder, go for the 90 days, but we also can revisit again and be consistent with what everybody else is doing in the region. That's my take, and I think it's fair to the citizen and our people, and to revisit again after 90 days, and at least we have something to go back to it, because if we do it one way, then everybody else is different. We don't keep things in order. Thank you.
Are there any other questions?
Madam Mayor, you have a comment from CAO Webster.
Thank you. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to add to Mr. Marshall's update that I was talking to the Marshall CAO, and they were the first ones that have led the charge for this end-of-year deferral program. He wanted to make it very clear that it is combined with a very strong, they call it marketing campaign, that it is targeted to those that truly need relief, and it isn't meant to be an across-the-board deferral for their community. And they're actually strongly urging folks that can pay, that they continue to pay on time in order to allow the municipality to continue to operate. So I just wanted to provide a little context. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Are there any other questions? Seeing none, I will deal with the item that is before us. First, Mr. Clerk, could you read that motion back to us, please?
So, Madam Mayor, your first motion was moved by Councillor Persicini, seconded by Councillor DiClemente. The Corporate Services Finance Branch Memorandum dated April 7, 2020, entitled Property Tax and Water Bill Deferral Program Status Update be received.
Thank you. And could you conduct the vote, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Persicini, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Roy DiClemente, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Crothers, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Foster, how do you vote?
Yes to receive.
Councillor Morton, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Crone, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mayor Hackson, how do you vote?
Yes.
That motion is carried, Madam Mayor. The secondary motion moved by Councillor Crothers, seconded by Councillor Crone. I'll give you the general context of it, and we can amend it as we go along. Be it resolved that property tax and water utility bills be deferred for 90 days, and that Council directs staff to report on any additional deferrals by the region. Are there any comments with regards to that motion? Madam Mayor, we have a comment by Warren Marshall.
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Marshall, please.
Hi, through you, Madam Mayor. I believe the intent was to waive the penalties and interest on the outstanding water and tax bills. I don't believe we were planning on changing the due dates, but just waiving the interest for that 90-day period.
Councillor Crothers?
I agree.
Madam Mayor, you have a question from Councillor Roy DeClemente.
Thank you. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. I'm just looking at the resolution that's been put up on the screen for us. So at this point, the way it's reading is that we would be deferring that the property tax and water utility bill deferral program be deferred for 90 days. And that's not what the intent of the motion was. I think what we're trying to do is that we are trying to suggest that property tax and water bills, that penalties and interest not be accrued to the accounts for a period of 90 days. Those bills still remain due and we still want them paid. It's just a question of whether the person cannot pay it on time, then they're not going to get penalized for it.
Thank you very much. Are there any other questions?
Madam Mayor, Councillor Crothers has a question.
Councillor Crothers, please.
I like the wording that's right in the recommendation. I think they might be typing it up there now. That penalties and interest on unpaid property tax and water bills be waived for 90-day period. And then the second part about reporting back on regional updates at our next meeting.
Thank you. Are there any other questions?
Madam Mayor, I'm not seeing any further questions.
We have the resolution in front of us here, moved by Councillor Crothers, seconded by Councillor Crone. Be it resolved that property tax and water utility bill penalties not be incurred for 90 days, and that council direct staff to report on any regional updates. Are there any questions? Mr. Clerk, could you conduct the vote, please?
Thank you. Councillor Crothers, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Crone, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Foster, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Roy DeClemente, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Persicini, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Morton, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mayor Hackson, how do you vote?
Yes.
That motion is carried. Mayor Hackson, motion meeting's back to you.
Thank you very much. I will now move to item F3, Joint Community Parks, Recreation and Culture and Community Infrastructure and Environmental Services Report regarding tender award for the region of York Contract 20-151 Woodbine Avenue Road Widening Municipal Operations Center. And I wonder if I could have a mover and a seconder for this, please.
Also move.
Happy to second.
Madam Mayor, your mover is Councillor Morton, your seconder is Councillor Crone.
Thank you very much. With that, I wonder if I could ask General Manager Carmazin, please, to provide a brief overview.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. As CAO Webster indicated, we are planning an update on the Operations Center as a whole on April 21st. The project is well within budget, but as indicated, work at present has now stopped on site and staff are working with legal and the general contractor to potentially continue with work as an essential service. The road widening project before council is required for occupancy, safe access and egress to the site. The project was expanded by the region and region requirements and future requirements for traffic volumes along Woodbine. The project is an investment into this corridor as it does support future employment lands. And the project is DC eligible, and it's also eligible for future and further cost recovery from future development along this employment corridor. Our roads, our CIS and roads engineering group has reviewed the tender values, and there is economies of scale in partnering with the region for this road widening work. At this time, the region is still planning the construction for this work as essential under the provincial order. Be happy to answer any questions that council may have.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions for Mr. Karmazin?
Madam Mayor, you have a question from Councillor Roy DiClemente.
Councillor Roy DiClemente, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just two questions, actually. One is I believe that this report or a similar report was already before us. I don't remember how it was handled. I realize that this is probably time is of the essence. So I guess just looking for a refresher on the history of this report. And secondly, staff commented that there is a mechanism for recovery while it is DC eligible. I'm assuming that this contract, the additional funds are to be funded through DCs, and I think that we should be reflecting that in our motion about the funding source. But I also would be more comfortable knowing that there's a mechanism in place for us to recover from future development projects. At this point, it says that we can. But I'd like to see what that mechanism is and make sure that we build it into the future development in the area.
Mr. Karmazin, could you answer that question, please?
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor. I would refer the question to General Manager Valchek and General Manager Ramuno as it relates specifically to development charge eligible funding and future development charge eligible funding for the employment corridor.
Thank you. I wonder, Mr. Valchik, if you could answer first, and then if we don't have the necessary information, perhaps we can ask the next individual.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I can confirm with certainty that the costs that would be included as a result of this modest scope change in the project are fully recoverable through development charges.
Thank you. Councillor Roy DiClemente, did that answer your question?
I realize that they're recoverable, but at this point, the report says that that we can recover them through future projects in the area, i.e., the initial estimate for the cost of this project was for our frontage, the frontage owned by the town. The scope has expanded to frontages on other properties. Is there some sort of a registry on title, or what's happening in order to ensure that the cost recovery takes place?
Madam Mayor, through you, Mr. Marshall may want to comment further, or Mr. Ramuno, but as other benefiting property owners would come online in that area, our development charge includes a component that's paying for this project in its entirety, including the scope change. And so both from our town-wide collection of development charges as well as direct recovery from benefiting landowners, we would get full recovery of these costs.
Councillor Roy DiClemente, does that answer your question?
I think so.
Thank you. Are there any other questions?
Madam Mayor, you have a question from Councillor Crothers.
Councillor Crothers, please.
No, that was from the last one.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, you have a question from Councillor Morton.
Councillor Morton, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to Mr. Karmazin. What is the anticipated start date of this widening of the road area? And do we have any idea on finish date?
Through you, Madam Mayor, the anticipated start date is at the end of May and taking place into mid-June. It's approximately 3 to 4 weeks. And it will be coordinated with on-site works, assuming on-site works would continue with the general contractor on site. The region has placed this in priority. The region is doing a road widening all the way up to Ravenshoe Road, but this portion of the project will be expedited to ensure it does not interfere with occupancy of the operations center.
Thank you, Mr. Carneman. Back to you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. Are there any other questions on this item?
I'm not seeing any further. Sorry, Madam Mayor. CEO Webster has a comment with regards to capital.
Mr. Webster, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Tomorrow, Bruce McGregor hosts a weekly meeting of the CAOs virtually at 10:30, and it's usually about an hour. And one of the items of discussion is the regional capital program. And we're hoping to hear more about this project and more about the Judah Doan Road connection to Leslie as well, both of which are priority projects for the town and involve regional contracts and tenders. And we want to make sure that the region's still proposing to carry out these works given the COVID matter. So we will provide more information as it becomes available. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Webster. Are there any other questions?
Madam Mayor, I'm not seeing any further questions.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Then could we conduct the vote, please?
Thank you. Councillor Morton, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Crone, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Crone, thank you. Councillor Crothers, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Foster, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Roy DiClemente, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Persicini, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mayor Hackson, how do you vote?
Yes.
That motion is carried. Meeting's back to you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. We're at item G, correspondence for consideration. And I would like to move G1, COVID-19 email update from MPP Caroline Mulrooney. And if I could have a mover and a seconder to receive, please.
Happy to move.
Thank you.
Happy to second it.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, your mover is Councillor Crone. Your seconder is Councillor Persicini.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions regarding this update?
Madam Mayor, I'm not seeing any further questions.
Thank you very much. Mr. Clerk, could you please conduct the vote?
Councillor Crone, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Persicini, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Crothers, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Foster, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Roy DiClemente, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Morton, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mayor Hackson, how do you vote?
Yes.
That motion is carried. The meeting's back to you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. We are at item G, correspondence for consideration. Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Are there any other items under correspondence at this time?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We did receive an email from Dr. Simon. Just read it for the record. It will be later published on the agenda. And it is 2 questions. Are there any plans to help homeowners with the town's property taxes so the loss of income and the town still takes full monthly payments? And question 2, during the last few days, weather was nice and people were walking, using parks and trails. What are you doing to stop it? And those are all the questions within the email correspondence. I can advise council that staff have already responded to Dr. Simon, and we'll put the responded the questions with the responses on our public agenda. So if you can have a mover and a seconder, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
I'll move it.
Madam Mayor, your mover is Councillor Persichini, your seconder is Councillor Foster.
Thank you. Could you conduct the vote, please, Mr. Clerk?
Thank you. Councillor Persichini, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Foster, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Crothers, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Rodi Clemente, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Morton, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Crone, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mayor Hackson, how do you vote?
Yes.
The motion's carried. The meeting's back to you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. We're at item H in bylaws. I will move to item H1 bylaw 2020-031, being a bylaw to amend procedural bylaw 2009 as amended. And if I could have a mover and a seconder to approve the bylaw, please.
So move.
Madam Mayor, you have Councillor Morton that's moving it and Councillor Foster that is seconding it.
Thank you. Are there any questions?
Madam Mayor, I'm not seeing any questions.
Thank you. Could you please conduct the vote?
Thank you. Councillor Morton, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Foster, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Crothers, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Roy D. Clemente, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Persichini, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Crone, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mayor Hackson, how do you vote?
Yes.
The motion's carried. The meeting's back to you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. And we are down to our confirming bylaw. Thank you. I will move to item I.1, bylaw 2020-032, being a bylaw to confirm the proceeding of a special meeting of Municipal Council held on April 7th, 2020. Could I please have a mover and a seconder?
Madam Mayor, Councillor Morton, Councillor Roy D. Clemente is moving it. Councillor Foster is seconding it.
Could you please conduct the vote?
Thank you. Councillor Roy D. Clemente, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Foster, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Crothers, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Councillor Persichini, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Morton, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Crone, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mayor Hackson, how do you vote?
Yes.
That motion's carried. I'll pass the meeting back to you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. We're at adjournment. This would be item J1. Could I please have a mover and a second to approve the confirming bylaw 2020-032?
I'll move it.
Madam Mayor, you have Councillor Foster moving it and Councillor Roy D. Clemente seconding the adjournment.
Thank you. Are there any questions, please?
No questions, but I just wanted to make a comment. I'm very pleased and proud of our IT people and whoever's doing this. It's really working really well, and I'm very happy that it's working out okay so far, and hopefully we continue on. Thank you to all and whoever had the need to do it, getting all this in the video and all the work behind it. So thank you so much from me.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to wish everybody a happy Easter and a safe Easter.
Thank you very much.
I'm not seeing any further questions, Madam Mayor.
Could I ask you to call the vote, please?
Thank you. Councillor Foster, how do you vote?
Yes on the adjournment.
Councillor Roy D. Clemente, how do you vote?
Yes, with thanks.
Councillor Crothers, how do you vote?
Yes, with thanks.
Councillor Persichini, how do you vote?
Yes, and happy Easter to everyone.
Councillor Morton, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Crone, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mayor Hackson, how do you vote?
Yes.
That motion is carried. Madam Mayor, congratulations on your first virtual meeting.
Thank you, and I will just wish everyone an enjoyable weekend and happy Easter to those that celebrate. Please be sure to continue practicing self-isolation and physical distancing during your weekend activities and celebrations. And this concludes our very first electronic meeting. This meeting is now adjourned. Thank you very much.
Well done.
Well.